Welcome into Fantasy Preview on Fourth Quarter Clutch. I'm Brian Zeigler along with Noah Weintraub.
Hi, people.
All right, let's get right to it. We're gonna start with our quarterbacks, the signal caller of the offense. Noah, who do you like and why?
Well, I don't like Tom Brady. I don't like where he's going at all. Who I like where Matt Stafford's going. He's going around pick 52 after some overrated people, in my opinion, Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Tom Brady. And if you could get a guy that could throw for 4,000 yards and get 25, 30 touchdowns, round five, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely a good deal. And Matt Stafford, he's a solid quarterback. He's good time. He puts up consistent numbers. That's what I like about him. Consistently puts up some good numbers. Um, let's see here. I like to draft my quarterback like probably first or second round. Usually about second round at the latest. So I like Drew Brees. I take him just about every single year because just about every single year he throws at least 4,500 yards and a solid 38 touchdowns. I like to maximize the amount that I get out of my quarterback, especially the starting quarterback position. So I'm taking Drew Brees, or I'm taking somebody like Aaron Rodgers who throws 4,800 yards and has about half the interceptions that Brees throws. He throws a few less touchdowns than Brees does. Last year, Brees had over 5,000 yards and 43 touchdowns. Insane. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw. He had 8 interceptions, and Brees had 19. So big difference there.
So you wouldn't mind passing up on a guy like, let's see, these are people going around Aaron Rodgers' ADP.
hmm
Julio Jones, Demaryius Thomas. I'm not even going to mention these other guys because they're garbage. Or MJD.
Yes, I would pass up all three of those guys and take somebody like Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees because just looking at their previous stats, um, the Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to get a lot more points out of that position than a wide receiver position like Julio Jones. Julio Jones is a great player, excellent player, but he also relies on Matt Ryan to throw him the rock.
Well,
We'll
what
see.
about Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning, you
Peyton
could get a
Manning,
round later.
Peyton Manning's a solid quarterback too. He's amazing. I wouldn't mind drafting him second or third round depending on where he goes and if he falls. But but like Demaryius Thomas, he's a great wide receiver. But there's so many good wide receivers, and you pick so many of them. You only pick one quarterback.
Well, what would you think if you got, let's say, a guy like Julio Jones, Demaryius Thomas round two, and you get Peyton Manning round three? You could do that, or you could get Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers round two, and then get a guy like Vincent Jackson or Frank Gore or Jordy Nelson, a guy who's kind of iffy at wide receiver or running back.
Honestly, I don't see Peyton Manning going past round two. I don't see him slipping to round three. That's why I said if he goes to round three. So I'm seeing him going at least in round two. If not, I mean even higher. He could go even higher. But I mean I just don't see him going to that round three. If people are going crazy amounts on running backs, you got to grab a running back or something. But for me, my quarterback has to be first or second round, depending on which is going faster, quarterbacks or running backs.
Now, here's the question I have for you. If you're waiting at, like, let's say, pick 25, 26, you see Rodgers, Brees, Cam Newton go off the board, would you take Peyton Manning right there and then, or would you wait a little bit on quarterback? Because
I
there
would
are
I would
runs at quarterback.
I would take him right then and there. I take the best quarterback right then and there because in fantasy drafts, people start seeing a lot of one position going. They jump on that position right away. They go on that position right away because they don't want to pass up a solid player. So you got to jump on that. You kind of have to go with the draft itself on the bandwagon of the draft, kind of. Otherwise, you're going to lose a ton of really good players at one position. So Noah, what is your ideal top quarterback and why?
Well, I go a completely different strategy. I'll let if my opponent wants to have Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or Cam Newton and waste a second or third round pick on them, and pass up a top running back or top wide receiver, I'll let that happen, because most likely they'll suffer a running back injury later on. I will wait, and I found some really nice guys I like toward the end. A guy I like, pick 71 ADP, Tony Romo. The guy last year, almost 5,000 passing yards, almost 30 touchdowns, and that's 6 rounds, 5 to 6 rounds after you'll get Aaron Rodgers, and you can stack up on running backs, wide receivers during that spot. Another guy I like, and this guy is pretty underrated if he can stay healthy, is Ben Roethlisberger. ADP pick 92, a little more than 3,000 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions last season. That's a pretty nice bargain, like right there, and that is with missing 3 games last year.
Yeah, I like Roethlisberger. The only issue I have with him is he has been injured a lot the last couple of seasons. So I do have a bit of a problem with him missing some games, getting hurt. I mean, if he's out, he's obviously not producing for you. And if he's your starting quarterback, I mean that's a little iffy. It's tough for me to put a lot on a guy who could easily be out for I mean even 3 or 4 games. That's
Well,
going to hurt me starting my backup. That's going to hurt me a ton of points in those games. So that's
it
kind of
is,
tough.
but think about it this way. Last year, people were saying, don't draft RG3 as a starting quarterback. Don't draft
Yep.
Peyton Manning as a starting quarterback. Don't draft Russell Wilson. There are
Or
surprises
AP.
every year. Or AP. There are surprises every year, and honestly, I'd rather take a guy that has upside at quarterback than have to result with, let me look at some guys at running back that I
Mm.
would be left with, than having to rely on a guy like McFadden as my number one running back, or Ahmad Bradshaw, or Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Matthews. That's the thing that's risky. The one position I would love to wait on is quarterback, because with quarterback, you know that if you can stack up on running backs, there will always be a need for running back. And if you have some nice running backs, you could easily trade for a quarterback. You could probably end up trading for Tom Brady, Colin Kaepernick, if the guy has a guy like McFadden that gets hurt every year.
Yeah, yeah. I have a tough time doing trades though. I rely heavily on my drafts because I tend to draft pretty well. So trading, the tough thing about trading is if you trade a guy away and then he all of a sudden like has a fantastic stretch of games or something, you're like, oh crap! I just traded one of the best players I could have had on my roster. You know, that's why it's kind of rough because you end up not looking at the matchups as much. It's all about matchups. Um,
Absolutely. Also, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near Kaepernick this year.
yeah,
Not where
I'm a
he's
little
going in
worried about
drafts.
him too.
He's going before
First of all, he's
RG3,
got
Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford. I'd rather have all those guys over Colin Kaepernick.
yeah. Well, I like Colin Kaepernick. He's a great athletic player, but he's lost 2 wide receivers already this year to injury, and people are starting to defend against him. They got a whole year worth of footage now that they're going to be watching. They didn't have before. So I mean that's something that you got to take into account.
Honestly, before the 49ers signed Austin Collie, I would have said that Kaepernick
Yeah,
should go right around where Tony Romo's getting drafted. But with the signing of
yeah.
Collie, because Collie is a good slot receiver, I would say he should go right around where Andrew Luck is getting drafted, which is like pick 60, 62.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that's fine, and I think someone's going to be really happy with Kaepernick at that point. But I do think he is definitely a big risk this year because of not as many targets to throw to, and because of defenses adjusting.
Well, the one thing also with quarterbacks is there are going to be people that love certain quarterbacks, and the thing I like to do is if I see someone writes a four-letter curse word or starts complaining or something like that after I draft a certain quarterback, I start talking to them and see if I can get a nice deal out of them.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you'll always have someone that's pissed. Oh, you got Aaron Rodgers, you bleep 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 bleep. What do you want for him? And then you just stack up on players.
Yeah, that's a great way to go. I agree. You find somebody who really wants somebody and they're willing to trade a good chunk of maybe a couple of solid wide receivers or something for that quarterback.
And also definitely do mock drafts because QBs are the most unpredictable about where they're going to get drafted. Some people will draft quarterbacks first round. Some will wait fourth, fifth, sixth round. Some will be the last one to pick a quarterback. So you might as well try every strategy, see how your team ends out quarterback wise. And honestly,
Yeah.
if I was to get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, or Peyton Manning, I would not draft a backup. I would just take a chance.
Okay, so that's our fantasy preview. Thanks for tuning in, and check this out later. We're gonna be doing some more of these, more blog posts. Thanks so much. This is I'm Brian Zeigler
And I'm Noah Weintraub.
signing off.